He has more than 50 years of experience. So, and today we are having him for a brief discussion with Mr. Shiv Kumar on the 5 big problems in the industry. At Startic Field, we believe in that learning is a never-ending process. And once Mahatma Gandhi said that live as you were to die tomorrow and learn as you were to live forever. So you must be thinking that why we are talking about these problems. So at Startic Field, we believe that if you're going to start your own startup in future someday, so like if you come across these problems and when you have like already met with such industry experts and they have already mentored you regarding these problems and they have given you the solution, so it might be easier for you to tackle those things. So I think it's all over to Mr. Shiv Kumar now.
Thank you.
Yes. So sorry, I joined late. Hi, Shiva, Anup here. I think.
Hi, Anup.
Hi. So I just wanted to take a minute, guys, Priyansh and Shivanshu, just to thank Shiva. Shiva has been my colleague in Wipro, and he has taken his time for this initiative. Really appreciate him for that. And this is a series of discussions which we are having on the big 5 problems in various sectors on which startups can work on. So basically, these are the problem areas which are present in that particular sector. And if you want to have a startup and if you can solve these problems, then these are probably the big problems which you can solve to build your profitable business. So that's basically the theme of this, Shiva. And once again, thank you for being a part and nice to see you there.
Nice to see you after a long time, Anup. I mean, it's really been a pleasure knowing you for all this while. So happy to be here, definitely for you. So thank you, Priyansh, for all the introductions and Shubhal as well. First of all, congratulations to all the aspiring entrepreneurs. I think the fact that you are thinking in these lines is in itself very, very heartening to hear, heartening to see that you're already thinking about how to produce jobs, how to create new businesses that would reach not just the scale of India, but also the whole world. So I'm very happy and also very proud to be here amongst this elite group. So thank you again. All right. So the way in which I thought, I was also having a very brief chat with Priyanshu yesterday on how to structure this. The way I thought this would be useful for all of you is that in this session, right, in the next 40 minutes or 45 minutes that we're going to spend here, let's talk about very broad things that is happening in the retail industry. And when it comes to, I'm happy to do another session maybe few weeks later, where we can talk about if you have any thoughts on whether this is a problem to solve for, whether this, because if I immediately start talking about a problem and then I don't want you to start solutioning for it right away, because that is not the ideal way to go about things. Of course, there would be areas where immediate solution would be most apt, but it is for your benefit that you take some time to think about it. So in this session, let's just structure it in a way that we will focus mostly on talking about the industry as such. What is this industry? And I believe that would be a good start for this. If you have any thoughts, if you think we should do it differently, I'm happy to hear your thoughts as well. But please let me know if you think otherwise. And I don't mind all of you being unmuted. I mean, as like Priyansh was saying, it'll be great if this is more interactive, or else I don't want to give a monologue and I just have 4 people on video. So I've been in many meetings where when people are not on video, I don't even know that they are when listening. So for my own selfish reasons, please be more interactive so that it keeps the energy on. All right. With that, I will get started. Before we start talking about industry, let me give you a brief introduction about why I think I am remotely qualified to talk about this. I started my stint with retail after my engineering. not immediately after engineering, after a few years, when I started working with a software firm as a developer working for one of their retail industry clients. I worked in a sector within retail called pharmacy in the US for a few years, for almost 2.5 years. Post which, after my MBA, I've been working as a consultant in the retail industry field for over 11, 12 years now. In these 12 years, I have mostly worked on retail technology related problem statements and solutions, and also on retail strategy and business problem related solutions. So these are the areas broadly I kind of worked in. I'm in no way an expert on retail. Let me be very clear about it. Whatever I say here does not represent the views of my firm, where I currently belong. These are just my personal views. So please don't quote Bain when we are talking about when we are talking about this meeting later. So let me make it very clear. And what I'm going to talk about is purely based on what I have seen and what I'm foreseeing that will happen in the next few years. This is the first caveat, right? Number one. The second caveat I would like to call out is these things I'm going to talk about, they're not going to be specific to one geography. Right? The kind of experience that I have had, it's mostly on US and Europe. I've had very little chance to work with Indian customers in depth. I've of course worked with them, but not in the depth that I can be so confident about talking about Indian retail sector, right? So whatever I say, take it as a pinch of salt. Remember that these points that I'm going to talk about is applicable to retail on a global scale. And I'm also glad that I'm talking about it on a global scale, because this group, I heard from Priyansh, there is a group which consists of people from Maharaja School, which is present in Delhi. We also have DTU. We also have some folks from IIT. So the thinking that you have should not be restricted within this country, right? It should be more on a global scale. We are seeing more and more entrepreneurs, more and more products that are getting built from India, from here. So it is for our benefit that we should not restrict our scope or restrict our vision only to the Indian market, even though it is a wide market, even though it's going to reward a lot, if our focus is only on that. But our vision should also be on a global scale. For that reason also, I think this helps, right? So the problems I'm going to talk about, the areas I'm going to talk about are mostly on a global retail scale. Okay, so these are the two caveats. Let me restate them again. One, whatever I'm saying here does not represent the views of my firm, and it's purely based on my experiences. So I'm not an expert in retail, not the expert that you all might think about. I've of course spent some time, so that's one. Second thing is, these are not very much restricted to just the Indian market alone. It's more on a global scale. Okay, so I'm going to pause here, give you a few minutes to digest what I just said, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them before I jump into the topic.
Yeah, I guess if anybody here wish to talk directly with sir, they can like put the message on the like DM. We'll just make them a co-host so that we can know.
Yeah, that would be like that will be like super good if you can have questions and then talk about, because I have certain things written up. I spent some time in the morning to gather my thoughts and decide what to speak here. But if you have any questions, I think that is also very, very helpful. It will make it all the more interesting.
Yeah, agreed, sir. Actually, all of them are right now like in different fields right now. They're trying their hands on different field, including fintech. There are people from health tech doing under certain field. So can you like just give a 2-3 lines something about like a retail industry for the general audience so that they can understand what this industry is all about?
Okay, so any industry which delivers goods or services to the end consumer. So there is a difference between a consumer and a customer, right? So customer is it could be a B2B, B2C. I mean, anyone is you can call them as a customer. But if an entity is the end consumer of a goods or a service, and and the way in which the good is delivered to the end consumer by breaking down the whole part into individual pieces, into retail pieces. That's when the industry becomes retail, right? This is more of a theoretical definition of what retail industry is. Do not dwell too much about it. It's just a definition. So people are here to redefine all the definitions that are written so far. But if you ask me what is very, very unique about retail industry all across the world, so I've worked with retailers across the globe. One thing which is very, very unique in retail is it is a margin intensive business. So we are talking about 2%, 2.5% at the max. There could be some retailers who could make, let's say, 5%, 6%. I'm talking about margins. But most often, it's highly, highly fragmented, extremely competitive. I cannot stress the word competitive enough. It's extremely competitive. And even the successful businesses around the world, they are making 2.5%, right? So um, retail as an industry has different subsectors. So whatever I just talked about, the numbers, the financial aspect of it, is point number one. Point number two, retail as such has different subsectors in it. When you say subsector, it is dependent based on what type of goods are you producing or are you selling, I'm sorry. What type of goods are you selling to your end customers? So if it's going to be food, we've got grocery, we've got convenience stores, we've got hypermarkets, supermarkets, different ways of wholesale clubs, right? So that is your food retail, and it can be broadly classified into food retail and non-food retail. So food retail is predominantly the biggest part of any country's retail operations, and that usually consists of your typical supermarkets. Think of supermarkets as something like your more Reliance Smart, a lot of your localized supermarkets, right? Those are your supermarkets. And then you have got convenience stores where you have them. In India, we call them as mom and pop stores, which are your nearby Kirana stores, right? So that again constitutes as part of food retail. You've got wholesale clubs where your metros of the world, metros in India, Costco in the US, Sam's Club in the US, where the retailers go and buy from them. Small retailers go and buy from aggregators like wholesalers, where an entity is selling them to the retailers. That again becomes a wholesale club. So within food retail, we so far saw supermarkets, saw convenience stores, we saw wholesale clubs. There is another sector within food retail called hypermarkets. So think of an example, a very good example of hypermarket is a big bazaar, where you sell everything under the sun, right? Right from dresses, appliances, food, electronic appliances, a lot of stuff, a lot of different stuff, right? So, and then on non-food retail, you've got apparel, you've got specialty stores which sell just electronics, just sports related items, and home improvement items, different sectors that are present across that we typically see. Now, across all of these different subsectors, there are things that are very, very different. The way they buy items from their suppliers, the way they curate these merchandise for their customers, the way they develop their stores, their plans, how they plan their merchandise to be displayed on shelves. All of this is extremely varied between different subsectors. It varies even based on the region in which they operate. It also, you will be surprised to know that it will also vary based on the time of the day in which they operate. So even though retail is a very broad umbrella, we call them as retail, it's not like one unique thing. You cannot call it as one entity. Just like India is not like one thing, it's a combination of many different things. Retail as an industry is not just, you cannot pinpoint a finger on something and say this is retail. So retail comes in varied forms, it comes in varied colors, it comes in varied consuming formats. It's like a combination of lot of things, right? So two things we saw so far. One is extremely margin intensive industry, and second thing is it has different, the operations are different, the way they reach out to their customers are different, the way they retain customers are different depending on what type of subsector you are, right? So as you're talking about uh, what what is a startup or what is a new idea to build, you need to be very specific about uh, where am I targeting, which sector of retail I'm targeting, right? And again, I'm going to take a step back here. Um, when you talk about startups, this is more of a question for all of you. It's not like a statement that I'm making. Um, are you looking to build a new retail operation, or are you looking to help retailers? So your startups can be both, right? Your startups can do both. Either it can, maybe you can start a next Chroma store, or you can be a one which is helping multiple retailers do, let's say, on personalization or customer experience. So can I just ask all of you to possibly unmute if you want to, and let me know if you've already thought about which area you would want to focus on. Based on that, I think I can narrow down my thoughts.
Yeah, yes, sir. We agree that, yeah, retail is a very big industry right now. Like in India itself, it contributes about 10% of overall GDP. And also, if we talk about just our country, like since it is a very big big industry, so India has the third highest number of uh, e-retail shoppers right now in the world after US and China. So I guess like there will be like many problems right now in various fields under it. There may be problems in like shipping or maybe like storage or logistics and certain part. So I would like to like ask you like that any problem which you think that should be solved right now or which are right now faced by the corporate companies and they wish some startups to like start solving on that.
Sure. If you ask anybody in retail sector today, the one thing which I'm talking about, major firms, right? Major companies that are slightly $1 billion more companies. If you're targeting that segment, the primary thing that they would talk about is speed and convenience. Like how quickly are you able to deliver your items to your customers? And the speed is not just about delivery, it's also about when a customer enters a store, how quickly is he or she able to complete shopping, get the items packed, finish the payment, and get out of the store. So speed is in both the sides, both on both on in-store experience and on online experience. So if you have any ideas to um, reduce the time taken to complete a transaction, either online uh, or offline, which is in a store, that is something that would be really impactful. That would you can make the um, retail leaders open up their eyes and start listening to say to listen to what you have to say, because that is the primary problem. Second thing, which is I was talking about, is convenience. So when you talk about speed, it kind of the close younger brother to speed is convenience, because it's not just about doing things fast. So convenience is also about how easy the whole experience is, right? If I'm going online and trying to search for something, am I easily looking at those products? Is it easily searchable? Is it asking me a lot of questions before I finish a transaction? That is all in online. If I'm in the store, how easy is my interaction with the store associates? How easily am I able to find the products within the store? Am I able to get the questions related to the products answered quickly? Am I having additional technologies to get those questions answered? What about price? Is the price at which I'm buying, is it easily understandable? So am I able to compare those prices with other retailers? So speed and convenience is the most important things which would make any retailer uh, open up their eyes in the middle of the night and listen to what you have to say. So um, any thoughts on this? Do you have any ideas on this front? I'll be happy to provide my thoughts on this.
Yeah, and if anybody like wish to like brainstorm on this problem, like anybody who wish to add some idea or he or she may be working on it, kind of like since sir also told that the most like important problem right now in the retail is to like increase the speed of like transaction and also convenience of the customer there. So anybody here who wish to like add something, you are always welcome to add and like interact with us. Yes. If not, like we can like point it out. So the first problem you said is to better the process of speed and convenience. Now, coming to the thing, like, is there any problem right now in like consumer behavior, kind of in retail market? That is like we get to know that certainly talking about Indian market, many people they are very like sad about the Indian customers because they are not very specific enough. Their habits do not orient towards the convenience, I guess. They always run towards the price, like basically the one who offers the less price will attract the most of the amount of the people, even if they have been following a certain company for so long. It will take 1 second for any company to like lower down a price and attract all their consumers towards themselves. Do you think like is it a problem?
Not at all. So what convenience provides is stickiness. Again, uh, the answer to this, the true answer to this, Priyansh, is that it depends on what type of customer you're talking about. If you take a country like India, it's not a homogeneous population, right? People belong to different cities, since tier one, tier two cities, and within these cities there are different economic groups. There are different occupations which people different occupation which days people uh, are falling under. So if you go to a country like US, I can say that convenience would be applicable to speed and convenience would be applicable to, let's say, 60% of the population. It's like a huge size of the population. But in India, it depends on which city you're present, right? So I'll give you a personal example. 2 days back, 7 o'clock in the morning, we realized that we didn't have something at home and we need to cook something before we can all go to office. What do you think would have happened, let's say, 2 years back if this situation occurred? I would have taken my bag, got out of the home, gone to a nearby Kirana store, bought some vegetables, and come back. And now, 2 years later, the first thing which struck my mind is open Blinkit, add a few items, seventh minute, that person is on my door. Now, consumer behavior has changed, and this is changed in tier one cities where I currently belong to. But if I go to a tier two city, maybe the easiest option there is to go outside, because maybe at the Blinkit, maybe it's there. If it's not, even if it's there, it takes more than 7 minutes. I cannot get it. If I'm not able to get it in 20 minutes, then I'm going to go out of the door and then buy it myself, right? So um, when I'm ordering on Blinkit, to your question, Priyansh, I'm not looking at price at this point in time. I know there will be like a 2 rupee, 3 rupees increase in price, but I'm okay with that because the transaction size has reduced. I'm not going to buy like 100 items or 50 items in one go, uh, wherein the cumulative effect of buying all of this on Blinkit would be high, right? I will be shelling out, like, say, 200 rupees more out of my own pocket. But if I'm going to buy just 2, 3 items in a transaction in a basket, then I'm going to probably, let's say, overspend 5 rupees more, which I'm okay with, because that's the amount I'll anyways have to spend if I'm taking my bike or car. The fuel charges or whatever it is, it's going to be, and also there is a time value of money. So those things cancel out. So what Blinkit and Zepto have done is they are made it okay to order less numbers of items in a transaction. So the price doesn't necessarily become an important factor. There, the important factor is time and convenience. It's all about speed and convenience, what I just talked about. So the behavior has changed there. But if you go to a Blinkit in a different city, maybe the delivery fees are very high. Maybe the time it takes for them to deliver it to your homes is more than 15 minutes. In those instances, price becomes an important factor more than anything else. So it is indeed very true that the whole quote unquote brand loyalty is no longer present. But what is still present is they are loyal to a brand who's giving you convenience and speed every time. So it's no longer about the brand, it's about what the brand gives you, right? If the brand is able to give it to you, that speed and that convenience, then you are loyal to them. So it's as simple as that. They are becoming more objective and not being very subjective about, I like Ralph Lauren, I'm going to buy this shirt. Nobody talks about in those terms. There are, of course, there are still a few brands which are still worthwhile, but it's no longer about what the brand is in for. It's about what the brand can make us feel, right? So I hope I answered your question. A kind of an adjacent point to this is, again, circling back to the same point. When you're thinking of an idea, right? When you think of a new problem to solve for, think about which type of customer are you targeting, because one size fits all approach for all customers is not going to work out, right? So I live in Bangalore. I live in a place called HSR Layout, where I see different types of retail stores. It's one of my favorite hobbies to walk around the streets to find out what new businesses come up. And one thing which kind of strikes me every time I walk is, there is a store for one type of customer. So there is not like, there are of course supermarkets where everyone can walk in, but apart from supermarkets, there is a store for pet people who own pets. There is a store for people who like frozen yogurt. Not everyone likes frozen yogurt. So people are becoming more and more narrow, more and more focused on what their business offers. They're not trying to be like everything for everyone. They're trying to find out who my target customer is. What is a target customer looking for? Is it a product? Is it a service? What is that? And then they are being very focused on that. So have your focus very, very narrow. So in our previous generation, right, our fathers and our grandfathers, when they started a retail business, it was all about, how can I be for everyone? How can I make sure that everyone walks into my store? Those days are gone. We are not talking about those days. There are still stores which are like that. In US, we've got Walmart. In India, we've got Reliance stores which do that, but they are very far and few between. And even if they are being dominated by all these big firms. So if you are a newbie, if you want to enter a market, be very focused on where you want to be. Just see what Zepto did. They knew the Zomato, they knew that delivery of groceries were there, but they can still could have done the same thing. But what they did was, they did very, very specific. They said, I'm going to deliver something in 10 minutes. So that is a sector that they're focusing towards. So whatever that you're trying to do, be very narrow, be very focused.
Right, so great. Actually, we are talking about like brand loyalty, and we talked about the customer behavior also. So coming on to this part of like modern marketing, I mean, like since the customers are right now becoming more and more, what we say, they are becoming attracted toward one-to-one engagement that develops a more like of kind of a personal trust between them. Is there any problem right there in the field of modern marketing channels where people can like definitely try to solve?
So if I understand your question, I think you are asking whether there is a problem in one-to-one engagement. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So there is a study which came, I think, a week back or so, where it said the younger generation, probably your generation. So I'm not the younger generation. I'm kind of one generation before you, and this generation of yours, you are more okay. That's what the study said, and it's actually on a global scale. The study said that this younger generation who have had their phones probably in school. You must have had your first phone when you were in, let's say, 7th standard, 6th standard, I don't know when. So this generation is okay to receive personalized engagements from brands slash retailers slash whatever it is. They're okay with having personalized experiences vis-a-vis the previous generation. Previous generation is kind of still gets creeped out when there is something very, very specific about what they just talked about, what their previous habits were. They kind of get creeped out. But This generation is okay with that. Having said that, what the previous generation was also looking for is, there is too much noise in this world right now. Don't you agree? I mean, there are too many brands, there are too many listening channels, there are too many transmitting channels. The moment I open my phone, there are like 50 people, and I mean 50 brands trying to grab my attention. If I just walk on the street, there are like so many different things that are trying to get my attention. This world right now is like a proper noise chamber, and any brand which is able to grab my attention is can do that only by being relevant for me, right? So I open my email. I think 10 years, 15, I mean, I had my first email box opened 20 years back. Yeah, more than 20 years back. And 20 years back, that's probably your age, some of you. So 20 years back, um, when I open my email box, I usually open my email box like every week, right? Every once in a week, I'll open. Like 3 messages, 3 emails that have come. Now, 3 emails come to me every minute, and I don't know where they get into me. So that is what the point I'm trying to make here is, there is literally too much noise around the world, and only email that grabs your attention, only message that grabs your attention, the only way a brand can only pop up that grabs your attention is when they are one-to-one, when they are being relevant to me. They know that, okay, Shiva is a person who's living in Bangalore. He has these interests. He wants to do this. So if the brand is very specific to my ask, I'm clicking on that, or else I'm not even clicking on that. I can just ignore that message, right? I don't even look at it. So the world has already, it's not even moving, it's already moved towards one-to-one. So there is no question about that. Water has passed the bridge. This question is irrelevant now. We are already in a state where mass marketing, mass advertising is not going to work, right? uh, um, just on a lighter note, um, one famous actor recently talked about even films are going to be more personalized going forward. So there's this whole aspect of showing one film where 5 actors act these roles and shown to all of the audiences is going to change. So depending on who they want to have customized movies for what the audience wants. If I want a character having this persona, so this movie will be made through them. So I mean, I'm talking about extremely like 10-15 years later, but we are moving to that stage. So it's not about mass marketing or advertising anymore. So that water is passed. So now to your question about, is it going to be a fad? No, it's not going to be. It's going to remain the same. You can see like more and more relevance coming in. What retailers or brands are doing is that they're trying to be less creepy, right? They're trying to say that if they actually know that you want this, but they wouldn't say that in the first email. They would send you two irrelevant emails by intention, and then send the third email, which is by purpose. So they're trying to be like smart here. So they know that if I send you like relevant emails all the time, then it might trip you out. So they are trying to be less um, um, less creepy by wantedly sending like irrelevant emails and sending you the right email later. So it's not going to be it's not going to go anywhere.
Agreed, sir. Right. I mean, this kind of data they collect, like we all are familiar. Like we see day-to-day notifications pinging on a phone. Zomato is like every time they know ourselves that what we want, what our taste is, like on certain day and certain time, what kind of food are we willing to eat? They know everything. Like there's a bunch of data about us, much that we even don't know about themselves ourselves. So yeah, that's one-to-one case. So yeah, that's the like good turnout they create from that. Now, like coming on to this part of like in retail industry, there any like problem in like retaining the employees? Like retail has historically had a like high employee turnover rate. Like so, like is it a case right now? Like is something a problem?
Yes. I'm kind of very happy with the way that you're prepared for this. Priyansh. So thank you so much for that. You're making my job a lot more easier, and it's making me enjoy this conversation a lot more. I would have been bored to death if I had listed these points by myself. I don't know whether you would understand or not. So thank you so much for really thank you from the bottom of my heart for preparing for this. So to your question, yes, retail has always been like a what is the word for it? Jumpstart career, right? They don't want to have a long career. People don't really want to have a long career at retail. I'm talking about people who start as store associates, sales associates, DC associates, and all of them, right? They are in college, they want some easy money. They want to also like learn about how to engage with new people, outside people. So they take up these jobs and then they spend like a couple of years and then move, right? Very few people who spend 5 years and very few people who spend 10 years become store manager. So anybody who spends 10 years becomes store manager. It's like default because not a lot of people spend 10 years in one company, especially in one retailer. So this is also true in other global markets, especially in the US. In US, what is this month? October, right? From now, it would have started in August. So from August till December, if the total number of employees in a firm in a retailer is X, during this 4 or 5 months time period, they recruit 2X to go for the holiday season because that's the time they need to prepare for the holiday season, and they recruit almost twice the number because all these are temporary workers. So retail typically has a lot of temporary contract staff who are there only for the time being. So there are two kinds of problems here. One, very few people of this temporary workforce get want to continue in the continue in the retailer. And in retail, the more and more years you spend in the company, that's when you become a very good ambassador to that specific store, to that specific retailer. Because as a customer, we know that okay, if I go there, I know this person will be there, he'll be able to help me out. How bad that person is and all that, that is secondary. But as long as we know that there is a person there, he is going to help me out, that in itself, he or she is going to help us out, that in itself is a very positive thing for us, right, as customers. So retailers know this. That's the reason why they are like hell bent on retaining the stuff. This is one problem, right? How do you retain these people? I'll talk more about this later, right? But I'll just talk about the other problem as well. This is one problem. The second problem is, in these 4 or 5 months, let's assume that not even assume, you know for a fact that not all of them are going to stay back, right? But they've just joined right now, and within 4 months they will be trained in the operations of the retailers. It's not about just retail is a very complicated operation. It's not just about standing in the aisle and then saying, what do you want, ma'am? No, it's not just that. There are a lot of other activities which a store associate does. So how do you train these people properly? Train these people in a very short time. You don't have like 2 months to give training. 2 months is like half the time they're going to spend in the company, right? You cannot spend 2 months just on training. So you have probably like 1 or 2 days at the maximum to train them, and then most of the training is on the job. So the second problem that retailers have because of this talent problem is, how quickly can I train this workforce so they are maximum useful for me, and also being less damaging to the retailer as a brand, right? They need to do a few things right. They should also not do a few things. Only by doing a combination of this, they can stay true to the brand. So these are the two main issues which any retailer face. Take any retailer in the world today. Go to a Walmart, go to an Amazon, go to an Alibaba, go to even Reliance. You talk to their operational CEO of operations. These are the two things they'll come and talk to you about. How do I retain my good people on the payroll? How do I ensure that how do I give them a promising career to them? Number one. And number two, I know there is a lot of temporary workforce that's going to be here. How quickly can I train them without damaging the brand? So these are the two things that are extremely pertinent. So I'll give you an idea for a solution that we were also thinking about several years ago. I think Anup and we were part of one account, I think 4 or 5 years back. And one of the solution that we kind of thought about, he drove an initiative, and one of the things that we kind of our team kind of thought about was having having a AI solution which will answer the queries of a store associate real time. So they are new to the workforce. They spend 2 days. They don't know where to find this SOP, and how quickly can they find it. This is something that we try to build. But what I'm trying to say here is, if you can have any solutions built to train this workforce quickly. So I remember another incident where the founder of Ola, after he had the initial idea, and he was about to launch it in the market, he went to Nandan Nilekani, founder of one of the founders of Infosys, and Nandan Nilekani referred him to a company which built language translation software plus learning management software for drivers, right? Because people who drive Olas and Ubers, they're not necessarily always very well educated, right? They are like in a mix of people, and they might not know English that often, that well. So they wanted a system which will train these people very quickly, right? So this problem is very, very unique. Not unique. It's not unique. This problem is very common across all sectors of work. So if you are able to think of any ideas which can address these things, I think that will be super helpful.
And I just had one follow-up question for this. Since you mentioned the name Amazon, it reminded me of one of the incidents I faced with Amazon. So I actually placed an order with Amazon late during that couple of months ago. So what happened? Like I received a wrong order. I contacted their customer service for regarding my issue for the same. So what I noticed there, that there was sort of an internal miscommunication between them, because they had to go and check to their logistics, and they were saying we have to check with this department. So is there actually that sort of miscommunication in the retail industry? Like these big firms are facing like tough time managing their internal affairs, something like that?
It happens in any company, so it's not just specific to retail. Um, Retail, it is more pronounced because it is more customer facing, right? Because it comes out on as a tweet. 15 minutes later, people know about it. But these happen in any firm. Even if you talk about any big firm in a different industry, it happens. So this, I think, if I understand your situation right, you wanted something that was wrongly delivered, and you wrote back to them, and then within the firm there was a confusion, right? That's the thing. It's as common as, is as ubiquitous, as ancient as anything in the world. So it happens in every firm, how much ever strong, how much ever famous, even in Google it might happen, right? So this, I would say, is a very broad problem to solve for. I would not recommend spending a lot of time at this point in time, because unless and until like within the miscommunication, I want to solve this area of miscommunication. If you have that idea, if you have that picture clear in your mind, then I would strongly recommend going towards that. Or else, thinking about this managing the internal affairs is actually a very, very common problem. You cannot solve for it. I think I'm being very cocky when I say that. No, I think you can probably solve for it, but I would be like slightly more hesitant to go for it, because as I was telling, this is a very broad, very common problem statement. If you can narrow your focus a little bit more, then yeah, you should give it a try.
So once I was wondering, since there was a problem with the logistics, like if we can make something sort of an software management system which can easily connect the customer services with the logistics, so that they can provide a better customer experience. Because since in the starting also we said that Indian customer, they firstly go for the price, then if they have certain issue, then they go for the customer experience. If you have noticed, like eventually we all have done this thing at some point in our life. Firstly we go for the price, we get the most inexpensive product for our convenience. Then when we have certain issue, we see like, is the brand providing us the quality customer experience? So like, is there something like we can build like a sort of a platform which connects the customer's help desk with the logistics or the concerned department, which can like provide a better customer experience? Like, would that be feasible in today's industry?
It is already there in the system. So these systems are already built, um, and it's been there for at least more than a decade, or more than that, also more than 2 decades. So what has happened in your situation or in many situations is that there were some glitches which did not work, and uh, you can, I mean, if you can think about something very new there, like a blockchain solution for solving this, unless until you have something very dramatic or um, very new, I would say this is like this. There is already a um, there are already systems which help doing that. We have got ERP systems which are connected to the customer call center. So there is a contact center application usually, which connects to an ERP solution, and the ERP solution will have all the details about the logistics details. This who's the supplier, for even who's a supplier, who's a distributor, and who's going to deliver it to the customer. They have all this information. So what must have happened during that instance, I'm just guessing here, is that it's not a problem. Maybe there was a technical glitch in the system because of which they didn't receive the right message. Which in this case, it will be more of a software problem, which should be fixed by the software vendor. And operationally, what would have happened is that there could be some problems in mapping your your delivery person with the customer call center details. So again, this would become like a business problem or an operational problem, which again, there is no need for entrepreneurs like you to get into the space. There is something of an internal problem which their own their own internal teams can fix. So you wouldn't need an external person to come fix it for them.
And I was like reading about retail industries, and I have heard many like big people who have already worked for this industry. So there's one thing which is common for the people who are starting in any industry. Like if they are selling a product, they are offering too many discounts actually. Like there are n number of discounts. So and somewhat they are also compromising like their own revenue, in some sense their own profit. So this is like, is there a way to tackle this situation? Like, is there a possible way?
You're asking questions which are very difficult to answer, Sponge. So this question is like an extremely relevant problem. So if you go to just open any retail website today, right, you will see that retailers are clearing inventory. So just when people, if you have, of course, you're a system, just go to Google and say retailers clearing inventory. You will say like 100 results on the first page itself. Almost all retailers are clearing inventory. How are they doing it? They are canceling orders which they already made to the suppliers. Number one. Number two, they're offering discounts. It's because they have already made a lot. They did not plan their forecast well. They've ordered excess and they are trying to clear them out so that they can have fresh items for the next season or for the next month or whatever. So it's like an age-old problem. But and there are several software products which help you decide what is the right discount to give, right? So usually what happens is, this is one area that you can possibly look for actually, because what typically happens is that there is a uniform calendar which they follow, right? Meaning like every 2-3 months, I'm talking about apparel. Grocery could be slightly different. In apparel, what they do is they have a markdown calendar. So the markdown calendar is published at the beginning of any financial year. And what the calendar says is every third week, whatever is excess inventory, they calculate the excess inventory by a mathematical formula. And once they have the excess inventory, I'm going to apply 15% discount on those items. And the items will get sold in that week. There'll still be items which wouldn't have gotten sold even after 15%. Now they take that remaining inventory and they say that for these items, I'm going to do a dollar off or again a dollar percentage discount. So that this time the number will be 25%. and then 30%. And after it becomes 30%, then they will say these items will move to clearance inventory. And the end of the fourth week, whatever it is clearance inventory, it will like throwaway prices, like $1, $2 items. So this is a calendar which they follow, which is like irrespective of the value of the item, irrespective of what is happening in the market, why there are people not buying, instead of irrespective of taking all these into consideration, they have a very, very fixed static markdown calendar with which they run their discounts. So what could be an area that you can explore? I'm just being a little bit more cautious. I'm just saying it could be explored is, can this be more dynamic? Meaning, can you preempt instead of waiting for 2 weeks, after which deciding to apply discount of 15%, can you run the discount calendar a little bit more dynamic fashion, depending on what data you see, like how is your sell-through rate, what are you seeing in the market. For example, if you bought, let's say, CSK t-shirts, and you've got CSK t-shirts, you're going to sell them in your store. The finals is like 2 weeks later, but then but they didn't qualify for the playoffs. Okay, so if they don't qualify for the playoffs, which is happening right now, 2 weeks later, the finals, they are not going to play. Right now, instead of waiting for 2 weeks to start discounting the items, can you start discounting them right away? So this is what I call as dynamic way of discounting. So this is an area that you can potentially think about. This will be a software product that you are trying to build, wherein you take in different factors into consideration, and then instead of having static calendars, you will apply it more dynamic.
Thank you, sir. That was a really wonderful discussion. So I guess we have already reached 5:50. We asked you for 1 hour today. So we would love to like discuss further if we get a chance in future. So like if possible, could you just in short like sum up the discussions we had, like the 5 problems for our audience?
Yeah, we didn't talk about 5 actually. We just talked 3. So one thing which we talked about was speed and convenience. Second thing we talked about was, I think, personalization, one-to-one engagement. And the third thing we talked about was discounts, right? So how do you solve for it? Apart from these 3, I had a couple of things as well. One is on, so these 3 were there on my list of things to discuss with you. Apart from this, I have got a couple of things as well. One was on different modes of buying for customers. So it's not just about apps, it's not just about websites, it's not just about in-store. We are seeing social commerce, we are seeing live streaming commerce. So these are very, very, and there's a merging of these channels that is happening, right? So people expect the experience that they have in store on their app. Similarly, vice versa, what they experience in the app or in a live streaming environment, they want it in store. So this merging of experiences are happening. So that is one area that you should, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity area. The way in which I call retail is, it's not, these are not problems, these are opportunities for us to look for. So that's the 4th one. And the 5th one is very, very important. This is a topic I'm also very, very passionate about personally. Is, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm just going to take 2 more minutes and then we'll close it. I'm going to ask you all your questions. What is your favorite brand and why?
Sir, before sir answering, I want to ask, is there any specific field or sir generally?
Any feeling. No, forget about retail. Forget about retail.
I'll say like if in mobile devices, I'll say Apple because I love the functionality. It provides me like ease as compared to Android. Things are more accessible, and I feel like it has better functionality than Android. This may be a controversial point right now because many people like favor Android over like iOS, but I personally love Apple because of these things, because it's quite like comfortable for me as compared to Android.
So this is a slightly debatable point, right? So I can say the same thing about a Samsung, but still I understand why people would go for an Apple. It's because it kind of makes you feel very unique. right? I mean, if you own an Apple device, it could be a phone, it could be a computer. It kind of tells you a different story about yourself. It kind of implicates that you are a very unique person who's very creative, who's very passionate about stuff, irrespective of what that stuff is, right? So that's the message you give about Apple. So you're not talking about, I mean, that's the message that I've got about Apple users, from Apple users. So before we talk about, I mean, I just want to ask, is there any other brand you would want to talk about? Then I'll make the point.
Sir, I am Akash Mishra, sir. First of all, very nice session, sir. And sir, I am very interested in automobile industry. And sir, in that, sir, my favorite brand is Toyota, sir. Sir, there are two or three reasons. First of all, sir, it has the world's best service. Everyone knows that. And secondly, sir, it's we can use very is these cars don't they go for very long durations and engine does not wear out. And secondly, sir, I and very less people own it, sir. Therefore, it's a sense of, sir, above the average, sir, crowd, sir. Not like Maruti and other brands.
Oh, in India.
Yes, sir. In India, I mean, I'm talking.
Okay, thank you, Akash. Thank you for the kind words and also for your points about Toyota. Now, the point, anybody else? Okay.
One more
Yeah.
brand. Just
Yeah.
in personal, if you go for footwear, I prefer Puma over other brands, and because in general, like if I go for some other brands like Bata or something, I feel the shoes are more comfortable and athletic as compared to theirs. So yeah, that's why I prefer Puma over them.
Okay. Okay. So the point I was trying to make here is that when we talk about brands these days, it is no longer about the functional aspect of it, right? So when we talk about a brand, we are taking those things for granted. So what is the purpose of a mobile phone? What is the purpose of a car? What is the purpose of a shoe? So they are a purpose of a shoe is to help you go from one place to another, right? And car is same thing, more comfortable fashion. You want to go from one place to another. But when Akash talks about Toyota and when Shubhanshu talks about Apple, or many people talk about Apple, they're not talking about the functional aspects of the phone. They're talking about something more inherent. They feel that it makes them feel this way. I feel that this is more this is more this is like it's like owning this is a pride for me. You know, it's like it's a thing which I'm very proud about. It is making me feel very athletic, right? I mean, not all shoes are athletic, so there is some difference between them. But still, we are moving beyond the functional aspects of a brand. Similarly, in retail, what happens is retailers are the way they're communicating to their customers to target them, to acquire them, to retain them. It's moving beyond just saying, "Hey, I have a store. I've got like 10,000 items in it. Come and spend your time here and buy some items." They're not making these messages. They're saying beyond the transaction, they're becoming more. They're talking about ESG. They're talking about ESG meaning environmental sustainability and governance. You mean all of your ESG is a very, very important topic that is happening in retail today, where people are becoming more environmentally conscious and they are targeting those customers. And customers are also inclining more towards brands that are more economically and not economically, but environmentally conscious and becoming more good there, right? So this is one. And second thing is they're also moving towards they're also making these calls, say that I'm very unique. I focus on this kind of customers who are very downtrodden. I'm going to serve them, right? So the way in which this was the fifth point that I want to talk about. If you can help retailers move beyond the general day-to-day transactions and move towards things which will help them differentiate from the competition, that is like one of the best areas for you to look for. So this was my fifth point. I hope I didn't take a lot of time, and I think I also have gone beyond 5:35, which I initially wanted to do. So that's it from my side. Again, thank you so much for all your patience in listening. And as I was telling Priyansh and everyone, I'm happy to do a follow-up session maybe a few weeks later and maybe at that time we can probably discuss a little bit more detail on some of these things.
So thanks a lot, sir. I mean, this session was full of the like important problems for us, like basically the entrepreneurs here presently in young generation to like cover up these problems and explore those opportunities. Like more of like the session was basically towards the opportunities for them to tackle on. We discussed like we are doing this session not like because the for like starting your journey in entrepreneurship, the first thing you required is a problem, and that is the most basic part. The solution comes later, but if there is a genuine problem and you tackle that first with a very good solution and a very good approach, you are definitely becoming a very good company later on. So that's the main purpose. And today we have a really great session on retail industry. Like understanding retail for a like student is very like something complicated because it's not like in general we come across these things day to day. But as you like helped us a lot in like detailing all these five problems and how like we also discussed some ideas also that you have also told us. So we will definitely look forward towards that, and yes, we'll definitely want to have a like follow-up session with you on the same. So thank,
Sure.
that was really,
Sure.
and we would really love to be in touch with you. Thanks a lot, sir, for joining.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here. Have a have a good day. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.